Baby, are you okay?
Yes, I'm okay. Just the wedding stress.
The morning sun poured through the windows of the bridal suite at Eco Hotel, painting everything in shades of gold. Ada Nwosu stood before the full-length mirror, her white wedding dress shimmering with thousands of tiny crystals that caught the light like stars. "You look like a queen," Chioma whispered, adjusting the train of Ada's gown. Her best friend's eyes were already wet with tears. "Ada, you're actually getting married. I never thought I'd see this day." Ada smiled, touching the delicate lace at her shoulders. Neither had she. For 12 years, she'd convinced herself that marriage, family, normalcy, these things weren't meant for someone like her. Someone broken, someone haunted. But then Emeka had walked into her life 6 months ago at that business conference, and everything changed. "Stop crying or you'll ruin your makeup," Ada teased, though her own eyes were misty. "You're supposed to be the strong one today." Chioma laughed, dabbing at her face. "I'm just so happy for you. You deserve this, Ada. You deserve to be happy." The words settled uncomfortably in Ada's chest. Did she deserve happiness? After surviving when her father hadn't? After all the years of nightmares and therapy and the weight of unresolved grief? As if sensing her thoughts, Chioma gripped her hand. "Don't do that. Don't go back there. Not today." But the memories were always there, waiting, especially on important days like this. Ada closed her eyes and saw it again. The closet slats, the view from her hiding place, the men in her father's study, the struggle, the shot, the blood spreading across the marble floor. "Ada!" Chioma's voice pulled her back. "Where did you go?" "I'm here. I'm fine." Ada opened her eyes and forced a bright smile. "Just pre-wedding jitters. Is my makeup okay?" They spent the next hour in a flurry of final preparations. Ada's aunt, Ngozi, arrived with the traditional coral beads that had belonged to Ada's mother, the moment she clasped them around Ada's neck. Both women broke down crying. "Your mother and father would be so proud," Aunt Ngozi said, cupping Ada's face. "You've built a beautiful life despite everything. And Emeka, he's a good man, Ada. I can see it in how he looks at you." Ada nodded, unable to speak. If only her parents could be here. If only her father could walk her down the aisle. If only that night 12 years ago had never happened. But it had happened, and she'd survived. And now, somehow, she was getting married. The traditional wedding ceremony took place first, in accordance with Igbo custom. The venue was transformed into a celebration of culture. Rich fabrics in burgundy and gold, talking drums, dancers in traditional attire. Ada wore the ceremonial wrapper and blouse, her head crowned with an elaborate coral headpiece. Emeka looked magnificent in his traditional outfit. The Izigo top with distinctive lion head pattern, the red cap perched at an angle on his head. When he smiled at her across the ceremony space, Ada's heart actually skipped. He was handsome, successful, kind. He pursued her with patience and respect, never pushing, always present. During the wine-carrying ceremony, Ada moved to the crowd with a calabash of palm wine, searching for a groom among the seated guests. It was tradition. The bride must find her husband and present him with wine to show her choice was made freely. She found him easily. She'd always be able to find him in any crowd. He drank from the calabash, his eyes never leaving hers. "My wife," he whispered as she knelt before him in respect. "My husband," she replied, and the crowd erupted in ululation and applause. The white wedding followed at the cathedral. Ada walked down the aisle alone. She'd insisted on it. No one could replace her father in that role, so she'd walk herself into this new life. Emeka waited at the altar, and when she reached him, she saw tears in his eyes. "You're so beautiful," he mouthed. The ceremony was traditional and moving. When it came time for vows, Emeka held her hands and spoke from his heart. "Ada, I know you've been through things that try to break you. I know you carry pain I can't fully understand. But I want to spend every day of my life giving you reasons to smile. I want to be your safe place, your peace, your home." His voice cracked. "I promise to love you, protect you, and choose you every single day for the rest of my life. Ada's tears flowed freely. Emeka, you walked into my life when I'd given up on finding this. You made me believe in second chances, in new beginnings. I promised to build a life with you, a life full of love and laughter, and all the things I thought I'd lost forever. The priest pronounced them husband and wife. Emeka kissed her, and the cathedral erupted in celebration. The reception was everything Ada had dreamed of but never thought she'd have. The ballroom glittered with lights, the tables draped in cream and gold. Their guests danced at a live band, ate the elaborate buffet, and toasted the happy couple. Emeka's best man gave a speech about how Emeka had transformed his life over the past 12 years, building his logistics company from nothing. He's a man who understands the value of second chances. The best man said, raising his glass. Ada noticed Emeka shift uncomfortably at those words, but before she could dwell on it, Chioma was pulling her onto the dance floor for the traditional bridal dance. The highlight of the evening was their first dance as husband and wife. Emeka held her close as they swayed to All of Me by John Legend. She felt safe in his arms. Protected. Home. Happy? He whispered in her ear. So happy, she replied, meaning it. As the reception wound down and guests began to leave, Ngozi pulled Ada aside. My dear, I'm so proud of you. Your mother would have loved him. And your father. She paused, emotional. Your father would have given his blessing. I know it. If only you knew what happened to Papa, Ada thought, but pushed it away. Tonight was about joy, not grief. Finally, near midnight, Emeka took her hand. Ready, Mrs. Okonkwo? Mrs. Okonkwo. She was married. She had a husband, a future. They rode to the honeymoon suite at Eco Hotel in comfortable silence, hands intertwined. In the elevator, Emeka pulled her close. I can't believe you're my wife. I can't believe I'm anybody's wife, Ada admitted. 6 months ago, I was convinced I'd be alone forever. Not anymore. He kissed her forehead. You're stuck with me now. The suite was spectacular. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Lagos at night, rose petals scattered across the massive bed, champagne chilling in a bucket. Ada stood at the window, looking out at the city lights. Behind her, she heard Emeka approach. Finally, Mrs. Okonkwo. His hands rested on her shoulders. Are you ready for our new beginning? Ada turned to face him, seeing nothing but love and desire in his eyes. This man, her husband, wanted to spend his life with her, wanted to build a future together, wanted to erase the loneliness that had defined her for so long. She smiled, taking his hand. I'm ready. She believed it, too. She truly believed that walking into this suite, into this marriage, into this new life, she was leaving the past behind. She believed happiness was finally within reach. She had no idea that in less than an hour, everything she believed would shatter, that the safe place she'd found in Emeka's arms would become the most dangerous place in the world, that the man she just vowed to love forever was the same man who destroyed her life 12 years ago. The truth was sleeping in her bed, and when she discovered it, there would be no going back. Ada thought she'd found her happy ending. But the truth was sleeping in her bed. Smash that like button and subscribe to African Tales by Zion. Drop a comment. Have you ever discovered something that changed everything? Next chapter is the moment Ada's world ends. You are not ready for this. Turn on notifications. The champagne sat untouched on the nightstand. Ada's hands trembled slightly as she stood in the ensuite bathroom, staring at her reflection. She was married. This was her wedding night. She should be excited, not terrified. But it wasn't excitement making her heart race. It was something else. Something she'd felt every time she'd gotten close to someone over the years. That instinctive pull away from intimacy, from vulnerability, from letting anyone see the broken parts of her. Emeka had been patient during their courtship. They'd kissed, held each other, but he'd never pushed for more. I want to wait, he'd said. I want our wedding night to be special. Now that night was here, and Ada felt like she was standing on the edge of a cliff. Ada, you okay in there? Emeka's voice was gentle through the door. She took a deep breath, smoothed down the delicate white negligee Chioma had bought her, and opened the door. Emeka stood by the window, his tuxedo jacket discarded, his bow tie hanging loose. He'd removed his cufflinks and rolled up his sleeves. No, wait. He hadn't rolled up his sleeves. He was still wearing his dress shirt, long-sleeved, buttoned at the wrists. Ada realized with a start that she'd never seen Emeka in short sleeves. Even during their casual dates, beach walks, weekend trips, he'd always worn long-sleeve shirts or light jackets. She'd never thought much about it. Some people just preferred certain styles. "You look beautiful," he said softly, crossing to her. He cupped her face gently. "But if you're not ready—" "I am," she interrupted. She was tired of being afraid, tired of letting the past control her. "I'm ready." He kissed her then, slow and tender, walking her backward toward the bed scattered with rose petals. His hands were gentle on her waist, respectful, giving her every opportunity to stop if she wanted to. But she didn't want to stop. She wanted this, wanted him, wanted to be normal. They sank onto the bed together, and Emeka pulled back slightly. "Can I?" he asked, gesturing to her negligee strap. She nodded, and he slowly slid the delicate fabric off her shoulders. His touch was reverent, worshipful. She closed her eyes, trying to stay present, trying not to drift into the dissociative state that had protected her through so many difficult moments. "Your turn," she whispered, reaching for the buttons of his shirt. He hesitated for just a fraction of a second. So brief she almost missed it. Then he smiled and leaned back, letting her undo the buttons. Her fingers worked down the row of buttons, and with each one, more of his chest was revealed. He had a nice build, athletic, well-maintained. A small scar near his collarbone, some scattered freckles across his shoulders. She pushed the shirt off his shoulders and down his arms, and that's when she saw it. Time stopped. On the inner part of his left bicep, just above the elbow, was a birthmark, distinctive, shaped like a bird in flight, wings spread, maybe 2 inches across. A bird in flight. Ada's breath caught in her throat. Her hands froze on his chest. "Ada!" Emeka's voice seemed to come from very far away. "What's wrong?" But she couldn't answer, couldn't speak, couldn't breathe, because she knew that birthmark. She'd seen it before, 12 years ago. 16-year-old Ada huddled in the closet, her hand clamped over Chioma's mouth to keep her quiet. Through the wooden slats, she watched the men ransack her father's study. "Hurry up," one of them hissed. "Someone's going to hear." There were 4 of them, all young, all wearing dark clothes and makeshift masks that had slipped down in their haste. Ada could see their faces. She tried to memorize them, every detail that might help the police later. One of them was younger than the others, maybe 18 or 19. He seemed nervous, reluctant, hanging back while the others grabbed electronics and cash. Then she heard the front door. Her father's voice. "What the hell is going on in here?" Everything happened so fast. Her father charging into the study. The struggle. The older man, the leader, pulling out a gun. The youngest one stepping forward, raising his arm in protest. "Wait, don't." The shot rang out. Ada saw her father fall, saw the blood, saw the young man's arm still raised, and on the inner part of his bicep, illuminated by the lamplight, a birthmark shaped like a bird in flight. That image burned into her brain, into her nightmares, into every moment of the 12 years that followed. "Ada!" Emeka's hands on her shoulders jolted her back to the present. "You're scaring me. What's wrong? Are you having a panic attack?" She stared at him, at a concerned face, his worried eyes, his hands on her shoulders. Gentle hands. Loving hands. Murder's hands. She couldn't form words. Her throat had closed up. Her vision tunneled. Okay, just breathe." Emeka reached for his discarded shirt. "Let me get you some water." "No!" The word exploded from her. She scrambled backward on the bed, away from him, nearly falling off the other side. "Ada, please, you're really scaring me now." He stood, keeping his distance, his shirt hanging open, that damn birthmark visible like an accusation. "Did I do something wrong? Did I hurt you?" Yes, her mind screamed. "You killed my father. You destroyed my family. You're the monster from my nightmares." But she couldn't say it, couldn't process it. This couldn't be real. It couldn't be. I feel sick, she managed. It wasn't a lie. Her stomach was churning, bile rising in her throat. Wedding day exhaustion. Too much excitement. I need. Bathroom. Emeka said immediately, pointing. Go. I'll get you some ginger ale from the minibar. Ada fled to the bathroom and locked the door. She made it to the toilet just in time before her expensive wedding dinner made a violent reappearance. When she was done, she sat on the cool tile floor, shaking. It couldn't be him. The birthmark was similar, but there were probably thousands of people with bird-shaped birthmarks. She was being paranoid, traumatized, seeing connections that weren't there. But even as she tried to rationalize it away, she knew, deep in her gut, in the part of her that had lived with this nightmare for 12 years, she knew. The young man in her father's study that night, the one who'd raised his arm to stop the shooting but had been too late, the one whose face she'd seen but couldn't quite piece together because trauma had fractured her memory. It was Emeka, her husband, the man she'd just married. A knock on the door. Ada? I have ginger ale and some crackers. Can I come in? No. She steadied her voice. I'm okay. Just give me a minute. Take all the time you need. I'm right here if you need anything. His voice was so kind, so concerned. This was the man who'd courted her with patience and respect, who'd made her laugh for the first time in years, who'd held her when she'd woken from nightmares and asked no questions. How could he be the same person who'd been there when her father died, unless he knew exactly who she was, unless this entire relationship was some sick game, unless he'd targeted her deliberately? No, that didn't make sense either. She'd met him by chance at a conference. He'd asked about her family early on, and she'd said simply that her parents had passed. He'd shown no recognition, no guilt, nothing. He didn't know who she was, which meant this was coincidence. Horrific, devastating, impossible coincidence. She looked at herself in the mirror. Her wedding makeup was smeared, her hair disheveled, her negligee hanging off one shoulder. She looked like a ghost. She felt like one. Ada. Emeka's voice was more worried now. Please talk to me. Should I call a doctor? No. She forced herself to stand, to wash her face, to breathe. I'm okay. I'm coming out. She opened the door. Emeka stood there in his half-buttoned shirt. Genuine concern etched on his handsome face. In his hands, ginger ale, crackers, a wet washcloth. Here, he handed her the ginger ale. Sip it slowly. Do you want to call your aunt? Chioma? No, I'm fine. Just overwhelmed. Big day. She accepted the drink with shaking hands. I think I just need to sleep. Can we just sleep? Relief and disappointment wore on his face, but concern won out. Of course. Whatever you need. Let me just... He grabbed a t-shirt from his suitcase and pulled it on, covering the birthmark. Out of sight, but not out of mind. Never out of mind. They got into bed on opposite sides, a canyon of rose petals between them. Emeka reached out tentatively, and Ada forced herself not to flinch when his hand found hers. I love you, he whispered. We have our whole lives ahead of us. There's no rush for anything. I love you too, she heard herself say. Did she? Could she? Had she ever really known him? Within an hour, his breathing deepened into sleep. Ada lay rigid beside him, staring at the ceiling, her mind racing through every possibility, every explanation, every horrifying implication. When she was certain he was deeply asleep, she carefully extracted her hand from his and sat up. In the dim light from the window, she could see his arm lying across the pillow, the t-shirt sleeve riding up slightly. There it was, the birthmark, the bird in flight, the mark that had haunted her nightmares, the mark that belonged to one of her father's killers, the mark that was on her husband's arm. Ada wrapped her arms around herself and rocked silently, tears streaming down her face. She wanted to scream, to run, to call the police right now and end this nightmare. But what if she was wrong? What if this was trauma playing tricks on her? What if she destroyed an innocent man's life based on a birthmark? Except she knew she wasn't wrong. She knew. with the certainty that comes from having your worst moment seared into your memory, that she was right. She'd married her father's killer, and now she had to decide what to do about it. As dawn light began to creep through the windows, Ada made herself a promise. She would find proof. She would confirm beyond any doubt that Emeka was who she thought he was. And then she would decide whether justice or mercy would prevail. She looked at her sleeping husband, the man she'd vowed to love just hours ago, and whispered into the silence, "Who are you really, Emeka Okonkwo? And what do I do now?" The mark she could never forget was on her husband's arm. What would you do? Smash that like and subscribe to African Tales by Zion. Drop a comment. Would you run or report? Next chapter shows her impossible investigation while living with the enemy. Turn on notifications. Ada called in sick to work on Monday. She'd never done that before, not once in her 6 years at the accounting firm. But the thought of pretending everything was normal, of smiling at colleagues who'd ask about her wedding, was impossible. Emeka had left for his logistics company early, kissing her forehead and promising to be home by 6 for dinner. "Get some rest," he'd said. "You still look exhausted from the wedding." If only he knew what was really keeping her awake at night. The moment his car left the compound, Ada was on her phone, fingers trembling as she dialed Chioma. "Hey, Mrs. Okonkwo. How's married life? I need to see you. Now. Your place. Don't tell anyone." The urgency in her voice must have registered because Chioma's tone shifted immediately. "I'm home. Come now." An hour later, Ada sat in Chioma's small apartment in Yaba, a cup of untouched tea going cold in her hands. Chioma sat across from her, face growing paler with each word Ada spoke. "A birthmark," Chioma repeated slowly. "You're saying you recognized a birthmark from 12 years ago?" "Not just any birthmark. The birthmark, Chioma. You were there. You remember what I told the police about the youngest one, how he tried to stop it, how I saw his arm when he raised it." "Ada," Chioma's voice was gentle but uncertain. "That night was traumatic. You were 16. Our memories aren't always." "Don't." Ada's voice was sharp. "Don't tell me I imagined it. I've seen that mark in my nightmares every week for 12 years. I drew it for the police. It's shaped exactly like a bird in flight, on the inner left bicep, and it's on my husband's arm." Chioma set down her own tea with shaking hands. Okay, let's say you're right. Let's say it is the same mark. Ada, there are millions of people in Nigeria. What are the odds that you just happen to fall in love with and marry one of the men who... I don't know. Ada stood up, pacing. "I don't know how it happened. I've asked myself that 1,000 times since Saturday night. But it did happen. It is him. Have you asked him about it? Confronted him? And say what? Hey, husband, were you by any chance involved in an armed robbery and murder 12 years ago?" He'd deny it. Or worse. Ada stopped, a new fear crystallizing. What if he knew who I was all along? What if this whole relationship has been some sick game? Chioma considered this. "Did he ever ask about your parents? Your past?" "Once, early on. I told him they died when I was young, and I didn't like to talk about it. He respected that, never pushed." Ada wrapped her arms around herself. He showed no recognition. No guilt. Nothing. Then he probably doesn't know who you are. You use your mother's maiden name now. You look different than you did at 16. And honestly, Ada, if he killed your father, would he really have pursued a relationship with you? I don't know what to think anymore. Ada sank back into the chair. I just know I can't sleep next to him. Can't let him touch me. Every time I close my eyes, I see my father on the floor and that birthmark on the arm of the man who was there when he died. They sat in heavy silence for a moment. "What are you going to do?" Chioma finally asked. "I need proof. Real, concrete proof. Not just a birthmark." Ada pulled out her phone and opened her notes app, where she'd been compiling information since Sunday. "I need to know for certain before I decide what to do next. And if you find proof, what then?" Ada met her friend's eyes. "Then I call Inspector Okafor." Inspector Okafor had been the detective assigned to her father's case. He'd been kind to teenage Ada, patient with her fractured memories. The case had gone cold after 6 months. No leads, no arrests, just another unsolved violent crime in Lagos. But Ada had never forgotten his card. She kept it all these years. I could lose my marriage, Ada said quietly. My whole new life. Everything. Ada, if he's really one of the men who killed your father, you never had a marriage to lose. You had a lie. The words hit hard because they were true. Over the next 3 days, Ada became someone she didn't recognize, a detective, a spy in her own home. While Emeka was at work, she searched every corner of their apartment with methodical precision. In his closet, buried under old clothes, a box of photographs from his teenage years. Ada's hands shook as she flipped through them. There he was at 17, 18, thinner, harder around the edges, different haircut, but unmistakably him. And unmistakably from a rougher life than the successful businessman he was now. In one photo, he stood with a group of young men, all of them looking tough, street-worn. Gang members, Ada's instinct screamed. She photographed everything with her phone. In his home office, she found his old laptop, the one he'd replaced last year. She knew his password. They'd shared their devices early on, a sign of trust she now regretted. His old emails were deleted, but his search history from years ago was still there. She scrolled through months of old searches, looking for anything incriminating, and then she found them. 7 years ago, 5 years after the robbery, he'd searched. Statute of Limitations Armed Robbery Nigeria, and Can Reformed Criminals Live Normal Lives, and How to Make Amends for Past Crimes. Ada's heart pounded. These weren't the searches of an innocent man. She kept digging. Found an old document folder labeled Journal, Do Not Open. She opened it. The entries were sporadic, mostly from 10 to 7 years ago. Emeka had apparently kept a diary during his transition from street life to legitimate business. One entry, dated 8 years ago. I can't sleep. Haven't been able to sleep well in 4 years, since that night. I keep seeing his face, the man we didn't mean to hurt, the older man who fought back. I was just supposed to be lookout. I didn't know TK had a gun. I didn't know he'd actually use it. But I was there. I was part of it. And that makes me guilty. How do I live with that? How do I become someone better when I'm carrying this? I've left the gang. I'm trying to build something real. But can a man like me ever be clean? Can I ever deserve anything good? Ada read the entry 3 times, tears streaming down her face. TK, that had been the gang leader's name. She remembered Inspector Okafor mentioning it. They'd identified him from street sources, but never found him. And here was Emeka, confessing in his own words. I was there. She kept reading, finding more entries. His guilt was palpable on every page. His genuine desire to change. His anonymous donations to victims' charities. His fear that his past would destroy any future he tried to build. In his own words, Emeka was both the criminal who'd been there when her father died and the man who'd spent 12 years trying to atone. Ada photographed the entries, downloaded them, created a hidden folder on her own phone. The evidence was mounting. On Wednesday evening, while preparing dinner and pretending everything was fine, she casually asked, Where did you grow up again? You never talked much about your childhood. Emeka, chopping vegetables, tensed slightly. Adjagunal, not the best neighborhood. Why? Adjagunal, the same area where the gang had operated, where TK had recruited desperate teenagers. Just curious about your past. Ada kept her voice light. You know everything about me, but you're so private about yourself. Not much to tell. His smile didn't reach his eyes. Poor kid from the slums who got lucky. That's it. Liar, her mind whispered. But she just smiled back and changed the subject. That night, after Emeka fell asleep, Ada sat in the bathroom with her phone, scrolling through everything she'd gathered. Photos, documents, search histories, journal entries. She composed an email to Inspector Okafor, attached some of the evidence, wrote, I think I found one of the men who killed my father. He's my husband. I need to meet with you, privately. Her finger hovered over the send button. Once she sent this, There was no going back. The investigation would start. Emika's life would be torn apart. Her marriage would end. Everything would change. But what was the alternative? Lie with her father's killer? Pretend she didn't know? Let him get away with it? She thought about her father, Chief Nwosu, who'd worked hard to build a good life for his family, who'd been kind and fair and strong, who'd fought back against the robbers because he was trying to protect his home. He deserved justice, even 12 years later, even if it cost Ada everything. She pressed send. The next morning, Inspector Okafor called. Ada, I got your email. Are you somewhere private? She was in her car, parked near her office. Yes. Tell me I'm not crazy. Tell me you see it too. I see it. The birthmark matches your description from 12 years ago. The journal entries are practically a confession, and I ran his name through our system. Emeka Okonkwo, age 30, from Ajigunle. He was on our radar back then as a known associate of TK's gang, but we never had enough to bring him in. Ada closed her eyes. Hearing confirmed by a police officer made it real in a way that her own investigation hadn't. What do I do? She whispered. That depends. What do you want? Ada? Justice? Prosecution? Or something else? I want. She didn't know how to finish that sentence. She wanted her father back. She wanted her innocence back. She wanted to unknow what she now knew. I want the truth. I want him to admit it. If you confront him without police present, he could run, destroy evidence, disappear. He won't run. He doesn't know I know anything. Ada, this is dangerous. You're living with someone who was involved in a violent crime. Even if he's changed, even if he's trying to be a better person, you can't predict how he'll react if cornered. He's my husband. The words tasted bitter now. He's a suspect in your father's murder. Don't confuse the two. Inspector Okafor's voice was firm but not unkind. I need you to think carefully about your next move, because once you confront him, everything changes. Are you ready for that? Ada looked at her wedding ring, glinting in the morning sun. No, but I have to do it anyway. Then let's do it right. Let's do it safely. I'll be nearby when you talk to him. If anything goes wrong, you call me immediately. Understand? They made a plan. Friday night, Ada would confront Emika in their home. Inspector Okafor would be parked outside, listening to a phone connection, ready to intervene if needed. 2 days to prepare. 2 days to live the lie. 2 days to sleep next to the man who'd been there when her father died. Thursday night, Emika reached for her in bed. I miss you, he said softly. You've been so distant since the wedding. Did I do something wrong? No. Ada lied, moving away. I'm just adjusting. Give me time. All the time you need. He kissed her forehead and rolled over to sleep. Ada lay awake, staring at the ceiling, thinking about tomorrow night, thinking about the confrontation that would end everything. She'd built a case. She had the proof. She had the courage. Now she just needed the words. Tomorrow, she whispered into the darkness. Tomorrow I get the truth. She has the proof, the journal, the evidence. Now she faces the hardest conversation of her life. Smash that like and subscribe to African Tales by Zion. Comment. Could you confront your spouse like this? Next chapter is the confrontation that will break your heart. Turn on notifications. Friday evening, Ada stood in the kitchen, preparing dinner with hands that wouldn't stop shaking. Jollof rice, Emika's favorite. She'd told him she wanted a quiet evening at home, just the two of them. He'd been delighted. In her pocket, her phone was connected to Inspector Okafor, who sat in an unmarked car 2 streets away. She'd tested the connection 3 times. I can hear you clearly, Okafor had said. Remember, if you feel unsafe at any moment, say the word help and I'm coming in. Don't try to be a hero, Ada. But she didn't feel heroic. She felt like she was about to destroy the last piece of stability in her life. Emika arrived home at 6:30, bringing flowers. For my beautiful wife, who's been so patient with me this week. Ada accepted them with a smile that felt like glass cutting her face. Thank you. Dinner's almost ready. They ate at the dining table. making small talk about work, about the weekend plans Emeka had suggested, a romantic getaway to Calabar. He was trying so hard to reconnect with her, oblivious to the bomb she was about to drop. "Emeka," she said as they cleared the dishes, "can we talk? There's something I need to discuss with you." "Of course." He dried his hands, concern flickering across his face. "Is everything okay? You've seemed off since the wedding." They sat in the living room, Ada on the sofa, Emeka in the chair across from her. She needed the distance. Her hands were clasped so tightly her knuckles had gone white. "I need you to be completely honest with me about something. Anything." He leaned forward, open, trusting. "Ada, what's wrong? Show me your left arm. The inner part. The bicep." He froze. Just for a second, but she saw it. "What?" "Your arm. The birthmark." "Show me." Confusion and something else, fear, crossed his face. "Why?" "Please, just show me." Slowly, he rolled up his sleeve, revealing the distinctive mark, the bird in flight, the image from her nightmares. Ada's breath caught, seeing it again in the light, with full awareness of what it meant. It was almost too much. "It's just a birthmark," Emeka said quietly. "I've had it my whole life." "Ada, what is this about?" She stood, putting more distance between them. 12 years ago, my father was killed during a home invasion. Armed robbery. I was there. I saw everything. Emeka's face went pale. "Ada, I'm so sorry. I didn't know. I saw the men who did it. 4 of them. Young. Desperate. There was a struggle. A shot. My father died on our living room floor while I watched from my hiding place. That's horrible. I can't imagine." One of the robbers was younger than the others, maybe 18. He tried to stop it, raised his arm, and said, "Wait, don't." But he was too late. Emeka had gone completely still. When he raised his arm, I saw his inner bicep, and on it was a birthmark, shaped like a bird in flight. Ada's voice cracked. "The exact same birthmark that's on your arm right now." The silence that followed was deafening. "Ada," Emeka's voice was barely a whisper. "Tell me it's not you. Tell me it's a coincidence. Tell me I'm crazy." She was crying now, 12 years of grief and rage and betrayal pouring out. "Tell me IT wasn't you." He stood, hands raised as if to reach for her, then dropped them. His face was ashen, his eyes filled with something that looked like horror and recognition. "Oh, God." His voice broke. "You're Chief Nwosu's daughter. You're her." The confirmation was a knife to the heart. "So it's true. You were there. You were one of them." "Ada, please let me explain." "Explain." She backed away from him, nearly hitting the wall. "You killed my father. You destroyed my family. And then you married me. You looked me in the eye and married me. I didn't know." He was crying now, too, tears streaming down his face. "I swear to God, I didn't know who you were. Your last name is different. You looked different. You were just a kid when I didn't recognize you. But you were there. You were there when my father died." "Yes." The admission came out as a sob. "Yes, I was there. I was 18 years old. Desperate. Hungry. TK recruited me from the street. Said it would be a quick job. Easy money. I was supposed to be lookout. That's all. That's all." Ada's laugh was bitter and broken. "My father is dead and you were just a lookout. We thought the house was empty. It was supposed to be empty. But then your father came home and everything went wrong. TK pulled a gun and I tried to stop him. I swear I tried, but he covered his face with his hands. The shot happened so fast. And then we ran. And I've lived with it every day since." "You lived with it?" Ada's voice was dangerously quiet now. "You lived with it while my father rotted in the ground? While my mother died of a broken heart? While I spent 12 years in therapy trying to put myself back together? I know I don't deserve forgiveness. I know I destroyed your family." Emeka sank into the chair like his legs couldn't hold him anymore. "I was a kid from Ajigunle who made terrible choices. I was part of something unforgivable. And I've spent every day since trying to be better. trying to atone. Atone! Ada grabbed her phone, pulling up the photos she'd taken of his journal. You want to talk about atonement? I found your diary, Emeka. I read about your guilt, your shame, your anonymous donations, your attempt to buy your way out of what you did. He looked up at her, devastated. You went through my things? You went through my life. You were in my father's house. You're the reason I'm an orphan. She was shaking so hard she could barely hold the phone. And then you had the audacity to fall in love with me? To marry me? What kind of sick? I love you, he shouted, standing again. I love you and I didn't know. I met you at that conference, and you were smart and beautiful and guarded, and I wanted to know you. I wanted to make you smile. I pursued you because I fell in love with you, not because of some connection to my past. But that connection exists. It's always existed. Every time you touched me, you were touching someone whose father you helped kill. I know. He was sobbing openly now. I know, and I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I would give anything to take back that night, to make a different choice, to save your father. But I can't. All I can do is accept responsibility and face whatever consequences you decide I deserve. Ada stared at him. This man who'd been both her hope and her nightmare. What does that mean? It means... He took a shuddering breath. It means I'm ready. Whatever you need to do. Call the police, press charges, send me to prison. I'll cooperate. I won't fight it. I won't run. You want justice for your father? I'll give you that. The offer shocked her. Just like that? You'll confess? Yes. He met her eyes, and in them she saw genuine remorse, genuine acceptance. I've been running from this for 12 years. Not physically, I haven't hidden, but emotionally, I've tried to convince myself that changing my life was enough. But it's not. Your father deserves justice. You deserve justice. If that means I go to prison, then that's what should happen. Ada didn't know what to say. She'd expected denial, lies, maybe even threats. But this acceptance, this willingness to face consequences, it complicated everything. I have a detective on the line right now, she said quietly. Inspector Okafor. He investigated my father's case. He's been listening to this whole conversation. Emeka nodded slowly. Then he heard my confession. That's good. That's right. Ada raised the phone to her ear. Inspector? Did you get all that? Every word. Okafor's voice came through. Mr. Okonkwo, this is Inspector Okafor, Nigeria Police Force. Based on your confession, I'm going to need you to come in for formal questioning. We can do this the easy way or the hard way. The easy way, Emeka said, loud enough for the phone to pick up. I'll come willingly. I'll tell you everything. I'm coming in now. Okafor said, don't go anywhere. Within 10 minutes, Inspector Okafor was at their door. Ada let him in, feeling surreal. Her wedding night week ending with police in her living room. Mr. Okonkwo, Okafor said formally, I need you to come with me to the station. We have a lot to discuss. I understand. Emeka grabbed his wallet and keys. He looked at Ada one more time. I love you. That was real. Whatever else was a lie, that was real. Ada couldn't respond. She just watched as a man she'd married walked out of their apartment in the company of a police detective, heading toward the justice she'd sought for 12 years. After they left, Chioma arrived. Ada had called her the moment she confronted Emeka. It's over, Ada said numbly. He confessed. He's turning himself in. It's over. But it didn't feel over. It felt like it was just beginning. He's turning himself in. After 12 years, justice is finally coming. But at what cost Ada's heart? Smash that like and subscribe to African Tales by Zion for the finale. Comment, is this justice or tragedy? Both? Next chapter shows Ada's journey to peace. Turn on notifications. The interrogation lasted 14 hours. Ada wasn't present. Okafor had advised against it, but he called her afterward with an update. He confessed to everything, named the other gang members, gave us details only someone who was there would know. He's cooperating fully. What happens now? Ada asked, her voice hollow. Now we build the case. Arrest the others. prepare for trial. Okafor paused. Ada, are you okay? Was she okay? Her husband was in a holding cell. Her father's killers were finally being brought to justice. Her marriage was over before it had really begun. She had no idea she was okay. I will be, she said instead. The news spread quickly. Within days, it was all over Lagos media. Businessman confesses a 12-year-old murder. Wedding night ends in arrest. Wife discovers husband's dark past. Ada's name was kept out of the press, but she felt exposed anyway. She took leave from work, moved out of the apartment she'd shared with Emeka, and back in with Aunt Ngozi. Her aunt was devastated. I can't believe I told you he was a good man. I encouraged you to marry him. You didn't know, Andy. None of us knew. But I should have seen something. Some sign. There was no sign. He completely changed his life. Ada stared out the window of her childhood bedroom. That's what makes this so hard. The man I married was good. Kind. The teenager who was there when Papa died was desperate and scared. They're the same person, but they're not. I don't know how to reconcile that. 3 weeks after Emeka's arrest, his lawyer called her. Mrs. Okonkwo, my client would like to speak with you. I'm not Mrs. Okonkwo anymore. I filed for divorce. I understand, but he's asking to see you. Just once. He says there are things he needs to say. Against her better judgment, against Shioma's advice, against her own instincts. Ada agreed. The prison visiting room was exactly as depressing as she'd imagined. Gray walls, plastic chairs, the smell of institution and despair. Emeka looked terrible. He'd lost weight. His eyes were hollow. But when he saw her, his face crumpled with emotion. Ada, thank you for coming. They sat across from each other, a scarred table between them. Ada kept her hands in her lap, unwilling to touch anything in this place. I won't take much of your time, Emeka said. I just needed to tell you some things, face to face. I'm listening. First, I need you to know, and I know you probably won't believe me, I truly didn't recognize you. I didn't put it together. When I fell in love with you, it was genuine. Our relationship wasn't some sick game or manipulation. I believe you, Ada said quietly. And she did. The shock on his face when she revealed who she was had been too real to fake. Second, I'm pleading guilty. There won't be a trial where you have to testify and relive everything. I'm accepting full responsibility. Why? The question came out before she could stop it. Why make it easy for them? For me, because it's the right thing to do. Because I'm guilty. And because... He looked down at his hands. Because I owe your father that much. I owe you that much. You owe me my father, Ada said, anger finally breaking through the numbness. You owe me my mother, who died of grief. You owe me a childhood that wasn't defined by trauma. But you can't give me any of that, can you? No, I can't. All I can give you is the truth and my acceptance of whatever punishment comes. They sat in silence for a moment. Did you know, Ada said eventually, that I've had nightmares about that night for 12 years? That I still sometimes wake up thinking I'm 16 again, hiding in that closet, watching my father die. I've had nightmares too, Emeka admitted. Different ones, but nightmares nonetheless. That doesn't make us the same. You chose to be there. I didn't. You're right. We're not the same. You're a survivor. I'm a criminal trying to atone for something unforgivable. He leaned forward slightly. Can I ask you something? Ada nodded. Do you think people can change? Truly change? I think. She considered carefully. I think people can change their actions, their choices, their path forward. But they can't change what they've done. Your past doesn't go away just because you build a different future. So there's no redemption? No forgiveness. I didn't say that. I said your past doesn't go away. What you do with that past, how you face it, how you accept responsibility, how you try to make whatever small amends you can, that matters. But it doesn't erase what happened. Will you ever forgive me? His voice broke on the question. Ada looked at this man, her husband who wasn't her husband, the criminal who tried to be better, the teenager who'd made a terrible choice and the man who'd accepted its consequences. I don't know, she said honestly. Right now, I can't. Right now, when I look at you, I see my father dying. But maybe someday I'll be able to see past that, to see the whole person. I just can't promise when or if that will happen. That's fair. That's more than fair. Emeka wiped his eyes. I just want you to know. I know this sounds impossible to believe, but loving you was the best thing I ever did, even knowing how it ended, even knowing the pain it caused. Getting to love you, even for those few months, made me believe I could be worthy of something good. You weren't worthy of me, Ada said, not cruelly, just factually. You built our relationship on a foundation of lies. Not intentional lies, but lies nonetheless. The moment you didn't tell me about your past, you were lying. I know. I was a coward. I told myself I'd tell you after the wedding, and then I told myself I'd tell you after we'd been married a year, and I kept pushing it back because I was terrified of losing you. He looked at her with raw honesty. I should have told you on our first date. The moment I realized I was falling for you, I should have confessed everything, given you the choice. Yes, you should have. Ada stood. The visit was draining her. I have to go. Wait. He stood too. One more thing. The prosecutor is pushing for 20 years. My lawyer thinks he can get it down to 12 or 15. I'm not going to fight for less. Whatever the judge decides is what I'll accept. But Ada, I need you to know. If you want to speak at sentencing, if you want to tell the judge about the impact this has had on your life, you should. Your voice matters. Your father's memory matters. Ada nodded. I'll think about it. As she turned to leave, Emeka called out one last time. I'm sorry. For everything. I know it doesn't help, but I'm sorry. Ada paused at the door, but didn't turn around. I know you are, but sorry doesn't bring back the dead. She walked out without looking back. 6 months later, the sentencing hearing took place. The courtroom was packed. Media, police. The other gang members had been arrested too, and 3 of them were being sentenced alongside Emeka. TK, the ringleader, had died 2 years ago in a different crime, cheating justice entirely. The prosecutor laid out the crimes in stark detail. The planning, the break-in, the struggle, Chief Nwosu's death, the years of investigation that had gone nowhere until Ada's discovery. Then it was time for victim impact statements. Ada hadn't decided whether she'd speak until the moment the judge asked if anyone wanted to address the court. She stood, walked to the podium, faced the 4 men who destroyed her family. My name is Ada Nwosu, she began, her voice steady despite her shaking hands. Chief Nwosu was my father. 12 years ago, you broke into our home and killed him. She looked directly at Emeka. He met her gaze, tears streaming down his face. I was 16 years old. I watched from a closet as you struggled with my father, as one of you shot him, as he died on our living room floor while you ran away. Her voice didn't waver. My mother never recovered. She died 2 years later, her heart broken by grief. I became an orphan because of one night when desperate young men made terrible choices. She turned to address the judge. Your Honor, I've thought a lot about justice over these past months, about punishment, about whether people can change. And here's what I concluded. Yes, people can change, but change doesn't erase accountability. These men, boys really, when they committed this crime, they've all apparently tried to build better lives. But my father is still dead. My mother is still dead. I still have nightmares. The consequences of their actions are permanent. She looked back at Emeka. One of these men became my husband. I married him without knowing who he was. When I discovered the truth, he confessed immediately, cooperated fully, accepted responsibility, without excuses. Does that change what he did? No. Does it matter? Yes. She took a deep breath. I'm not asking for the maximum sentence, but I'm also not asking for mercy. I'm asking for justice. Real justice that acknowledges both the crime and the attempt to atone. Whatever sentence you give, Your Honor, I'll accept it, because I trust that true justice considers everything, the crime, the criminal, and the victim. She returned to her seat. Chioma squeezed her hand. After brief deliberations, The judge sentenced each gang member, the three who'd shown no remorse and had continued criminal activity, 20 years each. Emeka, who confessed, cooperated, and genuinely reformed, 12 years. Ada felt nothing, not satisfaction, not anger, just a strange emptiness. It was over. After 12 years, justice had been served, and somehow it felt both monumental and meaningless. 3 years later, Ada sat in her new apartment in Lekki, smaller than the one she'd shared with Emeka, but it was truly hers. She'd rebuilt her life piece by piece. Therapy twice a week, work that fulfilled her, friendships she'd neglected, a life that was slowly, painfully becoming whole. She still hadn't remarried, wasn't sure she could trust anyone that completely again, but she was dating casually, learning to open up, taking it slow. On her desk was a letter. She'd written it last night, sitting up until 3 a.m., pouring out everything she'd never said. Emeka, I don't know if I'll send this. I might write it and burn it, just like I've done with the 6 other letters I've written to you over the past 3 years. But I need to say these things, even if you never read them. I don't forgive you. I want to be clear about that. I may never forgive you. What you and your friends did destroyed my family, and forgiveness isn't something you're owed. But I'm no longer letting what you did control my life. For 12 years before I met you, I was defined by that night. I was the girl whose father was murdered, the traumatized orphan, the survivor who couldn't move forward. And then for those brief months with you, I thought I'd finally escaped that definition. I thought I'd found happiness. Discovering the truth felt like being thrown right back into that closet, forced to relive my worst moment. But over these past 3 years, I've learned something. I'm not defined by what happened to me, not by my trauma, and not by your crime. I'm defined by how I choose to move forward. I'm in therapy. I'm healing, slowly, imperfectly, but healing. I'm learning to trust again, to live again, to be more than just your victim or your wife. You're paying your debt to society. You'll be in prison for 9 more years, and that's appropriate. Justice was served. But I'm also choosing my own form of justice, refusing to let your crime steal the rest of my life. I hope you're using your time in prison well. I hope you're continuing to change, to grow, to atone in whatever small ways you can. Not because it will change anything between us. Our marriage is over, and there's no going back. But because people who make terrible choices when they're young deserve the chance to become better people. They just also have to accept the consequences of those choices. I don't know if I'll ever see you again after you're released. Part of me hopes I never do. Part of me wonders if someday I'll be healed enough to look at you and see only the present, not the past. But either way, I'm learning to be okay. I'm learning that moving forward doesn't mean forgetting. It means carrying your past without letting it carry you. This is my closure. Don't respond to this letter. Don't reach out when you're released. Let me have this, my final words on my terms. I hope you find peace. I hope you find redemption, whatever that looks like for you. But most importantly, I hope I continue to find peace. And I hope my father is proud of the woman I'm becoming. Ada Nwosu, I took back my father's name. She read the letter one more time, then did something she hadn't been able to do with the other 6. She put it in an envelope, addressed it to the prison, and sealed it. Then she picked up her lighter. For a long moment, she held both the addressed letter and the lighter, debating. Finally, she made her choice. She put the lighter down and placed the letter in her bag. Maybe she'd send it. Maybe she wouldn't. But having the choice, having the power to decide what closure looked like, that was enough for now. Her phone rang. Joma, still on for lunch? Absolutely. Let me grab my purse. As Ada left her apartment, locking the door behind her, she caught sight of herself in the hallway mirror. The woman looking back wasn't the terrified 16-year-old from that closet, wasn't the broken bride from her wedding night, wasn't even the angry woman from the courtroom. She was someone new, someone scarred but healing, someone defined not by what had been done to her, but by how she'd chosen to survive it. That evening, Ada visited her father's grave. It was the anniversary of his death. She came every year. She placed fresh flowers on the headstone, sat on the grass beside it, And for the first time in 13 years, she could talk to him without breaking down. I got justice for you, Papa, she said quietly. Emeka is paying for what he did. They all are. I hope that matters to you, wherever you are. The wind rustled through the trees, and Ada imagined it was her father's response. I'm learning to live again. It's hard. Some days I still feel like that scared girl in the closet. But I'm trying. I'm building a life you'd be proud of. She touched the headstone. I miss you every day. I miss Mama, too. I wish you could have been at my wedding, the real wedding, to someone who deserved me. Maybe someday there will be another wedding. Maybe not. But either way, I'm going to be okay. I'm choosing to be okay. She stood, brushing grass from her dress. I love you, Papa. I hope you're at peace. I'm working on finding mine. As she walked away from the cemetery, the setting sun painted the sky in shades of orange and gold. Ada didn't look back. She'd spent too many years looking back. Her phone buzzed. A text from a colleague asking if she wanted to grab coffee. Not a date, just friends. Small steps. She replied, "Yes, I'll come. I'm ready." And she was not ready for everything. Not healed from everything, but ready to keep moving forward. Ready to keep building a life that honored her father's memory without being destroyed by his death. Ready to prove that justice and healing could coexist. That moving forward didn't mean forgetting. That survival could eventually transform into living. The letter to Emeka sat in her bag, unsent but written. That was enough. The closure she needed had come from within, not from him. Ada and Nwosu walked toward her car, toward coffee with a friend, toward whatever came next. The past was behind her. The future was uncertain. But the present? The present was hers. And that finally was enough. Justice was served. Ada found her peace, not through forgiveness, but through choosing herself and her future. If this story moved you, smash that subscribe button for African Tales by Zion. Drop a comment. Could you move on like Ada did? Would you have sent the letter? Share this story with someone who needs to hear it. Remember, moving forward doesn't mean forgetting. It means surviving and thriving despite the pain. Thank you for taking this journey with us. Turn on notifications for more African tales that will make you think, feel, and grow. Until next time, stay blessed, stay strong, and remember, you are more than what happened to you.